Hello, everybody, and welcome to our. Well, this year hasn't been bi-weekly, but welcome to our dev stream.
Mostly bi-weekly.
Mostly bi-weekly dev stream. My name is Matt, and next to me is HB, and next to him over there is Mark. We have a stream for you today. Mark, let's talk very briefly about how the rollout of the update has gone. Obviously, there's been a lot of hot fixes and a lot of rapid sort of like getting stuff out there. How do you feel about how everything's gone?
Well, this was definitely the hardest update we had to work on. Technically speaking, it was just the trenches was huge technical problem to solve, and problem to solve on the art side too. How to make it all like modular. It looks like it just works, but in a lot of cases, there's a lot of work that was put into making that working, and obviously modifying the landscape in a large scale game with 150, 60 players on a server was a huge challenge, and we got through it, but obviously there were some issues. We had to patch the game a few times last week, and we still have one more hotfix, which we're going to be talking about on the stream. But so we got through it, and there's a game, and people are playing it, and we've seen a lot of cool stuff come of it. But I think this one was definitely like the dev team has really earned this upcoming holidays, because it was very extremely taxing for the team to work on this really hard update. So still have a bit of work to do, but after that, going to take a break for yeah, a well-earned break for everyone. It's been a hell of a year. So regardless of how like everyone has their own thoughts about how the game is, but definitely is not a question in my mind on how hard the team has worked this year. So
yeah, it's been fun. It's been actually a lot of fun. I've been having a lot of fun playing again. I don't know, I really like this update.
It's been fun for me too. I think there have been some things that I've experienced that I haven't in quite some time. In Foxhole, just like surprises and things that I wasn't expecting. So yeah, it's been really really invigorating for me personally.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what really excites me is there was actually so much that we want to do with the bunkers and the trench system, and being able to like sort of have the path laid out on what we want to do in the coming months is also kind of nice, because we were able to sort of like get the foundation in there first for the trenches and the bunkers, but there's just so much more that we want to do with that system. We're actually seeing players spending a lot of time in building out these massive like defensive lines, like literally like crews that are sitting around like 24/7 watching over these defensive lines, working on these defensive lines, and just putting all this effort into making these bases, which is exactly what we wanted, right? So
it's
that
been
part's
really
cool.
fun because I think it completely changed the gameplay of like how each team interact with each other. Now you have more options on how to approach a situation. You see people fighting closer to each other because they have more, like they can make their own cover and things like that. And that has been particularly interesting to see and play with.
And one cool thing is that in Foxhole, up until now, the main strongholds have always been the towns.
Yeah.
Mostly. I mean, sure, sometimes people spam a lot of
Foxholes
and Dynests
on a choke point.
On a choke point or something. But like now, a lot of these major fortresses are not at the towns, which is kind of cool. It's like a much more player driven, right?
Yeah.
So
which has been always our idea of what we wanted for the game. Always.
Yeah. I feel tired. You know, I feel like this is a tired stream. We need to like.
It's
so why have a Coke, right?
It's
I
it
need
has
to,
been a lot of work.
a lot
what can I
of
say?
very taxing last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So if we sound drained, well, it's because of trench warfare. That's why.
Yeah, I apologize for stepping in and out. My mic settings were all messed with over the last couple weeks, so I don't know if it's right, but we'll figure it out later and we'll adjust. Let's move on to
Community highlights.
Yeah.
the community highlights.
Yeah, this is gonna be a nice community highlights because it's been a while since we had one. KFC is gonna have like a massive blog post with community highlights. I think it's gonna be really fun for everybody. But this is community highlights preview that we're showing here. This is again, I think that the quality of the art that we're seeing by players has always been surprising. At least me, like how much more they're getting. How much
keeps
better they're
improving
getting.
quite a bit.
Keeps always improving, yeah. And these are really cool digital paintings, like really nice, very moody, which I always like. I like when there's like a lot of intercontextual. Yeah, I think I could totally see things like this as being of course adapted to our style, but adapted as the portraits for the players. I think that would be really cool. Moving on, we have a Colonial Armor Tank Hunter or a Warhammer.
I'm sure that infringes on some
Something.
some copyrights.
No,
Right?
I'm sure we're fine. There's which is a really cool
Armored
concept.
tank hunter. So it's like a tank destroyer,
It's a tank destroyer.
but in Foxhole universe.
Yeah,
Call it
probably
a tank
very
hunter.
much very armor on the front, like taking less damage on the front, but probably like trying to be more nimble than a tank.
Well, it doesn't have
So low
like
profile.
it doesn't have a turret like a swiveling.
No,
Yeah, it's a static cannon.
It's a static cannon, much like a tank destroyer. Like
but you see
many
how,
tank
how
destroyers.
low it is. I think it would be like much nimbler than a regular tank. So it can use that its own body to like move around, and it always keeping itself like protected due to the curvature of the
Right.
of the armor. That's pretty cool. That's a really neat concept. Something that we haven't seen before. Janissa continues to be very prolific, actually, which is representing the colonial side of the artist.
Oh, there's like a red river piece of art.
Yeah, Dawn of the Revolution. I think it's the same character as the regular colonial character, but in the Red River, the Battle for Red River, of Red River or for Red River, one of the two. And it looks really neat. It's been a while since yeah. What can I say? The quality of the artwork really has been stepping up like insanely. And here's a bunch of stuff. Oh, so even Mummy that has been doing like a lot of the SD, even their artwork is like stepping up a notch. And I think that's Red Donut making a character of Milady Leanner. That's really cool. For those that don't know, Milady is one of our players.
A longtime veteran.
Very long-time veteran, very experienced player, very famous or infamous, depending on who you ask. And it's kind of fun because we don't have many artists doing renditions of other players.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
That character at the top, is that an 82 DK character, or is that just a random warden with a gas mask?
I think it's an 82 decay character.
It's cool.
Wardens sort of seem to canonically have death.
Well, it's funny.
Freudian slip have
that-
gas masks.
But the 82 decays are the ones that always made those, right? Like, so it makes sense.
The artwork at the top there reminds me of
Django Fett?
the board game. Yesterday you were pointing out. Was it you?
The Grizzled, yeah.
I don't know if it was
yeah,
you.
no.
Someone was saying like it looks like Valiant Hearts.
Valiant Hearts.
Valiant
yeah.
Hearts.
Valiant Hearts. On the artwork on the cover of one of the board games that we were looking to play.
Yeah,
and I'm saying that this reminds me of that same type of art
The
style.
board game that we're referring to is The Grizzled, which is a co-op war board game. Well, not even a board game, more of a card game. But yeah, Django Fett Alexis artwork does kind of remind a little bit less crosshatch and like, but like the style does remind a lot.
Can we talk about that 82 DK piece though?
It's like the coloring is fantastic.
It's also inside the Warden logo, and then there's the silhouettes of the tanks and the soldiers on either side.
Yeah, that's
like the shape of it. It's
That's really cool.
It's
actually.
very
really well planned.
like that. Like
Really well realized.
That looks professional. Like you could see that on a poster or something.
Yeah.
Player.
What?
It'll be cool if eventually players can have their logo in the game somehow.
So this is the kind of logo that I would not mind seeing on the side of a truck or anything like that, or a banner, or a flag.
Yeah.
It's the ones that what we're going to have if we ever allow that just in it. How do you say that?
Well, I mean, there would have to be like
some
Like an
curation
approval
of some
process.
sort.
yeah, there had to be like a vetting process. We wouldn't just allow people to draw whatever they want.
Yeah, but that's
Because
that is really fantastic. Like Sethori, I don't know how to pronounce the name, but it's really, really amazing work. Yeah, no, this has been like, again, it's gonna be a huge dev blog. Look at that, Foxhole Mobile coming out never.
that looks like
Finally, we see a version.
It looks like what is those games, the like Game Dev Story and stuff like that, or like.
Well, I mean, it looks like Advanced Wars, right? So we always
that
say.
doesn't look as much like Advance Wars as some of the other ones we've had. It looks a lot more like Harvest Moon or something like that.
It's like a 16-bit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been really cool. I think you guys should all take a look at the blog post that is coming out later this week. It's gonna be chock full of amazing artwork, and we usually have also videos that you guys can watch, and that is hard for us to play here. We also have lots of written form stories and a lot of audio files. It's usually like a plethora of really cool player created material that you guys should definitely check out. And if you see something there that you like, share, of course, make sure that you put the proper credentials of who did it. But
Yeah, I like all the. Sorry, I'm still stuck on that last the pixel art.
this one, the bottom one.
Yeah, there's just a lot of small details, like that garrison house looks like the type of garrison houses in the game.
Well, it is
And-
the garrison house that we have
And
in the game.
and like the banner there, and like the rocket truck
Well, everything is
is
basically
not in the game right now, but it looks like this player wants that to be in the game. at some point.
This has been that particular truck with the flatbed with the barrage rocket on the bottom on the back there has been put in their artwork several times.
It's just
as a nod to us. I guess.
a nod to but it's just like the attention to the small details is just so good. Sorry,
I even like the wooden pillbox on the front there.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And the crooked fences that we have all around the world. They're really, really cool. I mean, again, amazing artwork. I think you guys should check it out.
If I had one criticism, it's that the fences are too straight.
For what we have on our. Cool. Thank you.
All right,
So-
Mark.
Now that mobile game is gonna have to have trenches.
Ah, crap. All right, so, right now obviously we launched Trench Warfare last year. It was the biggest update of the year, and we're starting to wind down. We're gonna push out one more hot fix, at least one more this week, hopefully very soon. And I just want to, and then we're gonna be starting to work on some follow-up features and content for Trench Warfare coming in January, as we talked about last time, after a break. So we're gonna shut down for a week. A lot of people are taking a bit more time off than that, so for the next week it will be a little quiet, but a few of us are going to be, here, not here at the office, but just sort of
At least online on Discord, some of us might
watching over things. But we're
I
again,
don't promise it myself.
the dev team is going to be having a bit of a break. So, but moving on, talking about hot fixes. Last week we released 3 hot fixes, addressed a bunch of issues. Those fixes have been posted on the release notes post on our website, so you can go there and see what's been fixed and changed. A lot of the fixes were centered around trenches and bunkers, obviously. And then we're going to be releasing another hot fix this week, maybe later today, maybe tomorrow. But I'm going to walk through some of the stuff we're going to be adding. The unstuck command. So this is like a huge thing, even though it's not really like an exciting feature, but it's hopefully it'll be helpful for a lot of places, for a lot of players. Basically, will allow you to fix your stuck vehicles on your own without having to go to mod mill and potentially wait for like a few hours and such like that. So if your truck gets stuck in a ditch or something else happens like that, you'll be able to use the unstuck command in the chat window, and that will, I believe it's the exclamation mark and then unstuck to use the command. And then there's a lot of checks that are put in place with this command to make sure that you cannot exploit it, right? Well, we put in as many checks as we could. Then now it's up to the players to hopefully use this responsibly, right? Because if not, we're gonna shut it down until we can like fix it further. But for now, there's a lot of checks. Like basically, you run this command, and you have to wait for several minutes. And after several minutes, it'll teleport your vehicle or your character to a location that you have been at, like a random location that you have recently been at. So it will also do a whole bunch of checks, make sure there are no enemies around, make sure your vehicle isn't like disabled. There's a whole list of like, I'm not gonna list them all right now. There's a whole list of checks it does, and if one of those checks fails, like then it will stop, right? Like it won't work, right? So hopefully we're gonna put this out there for like a trial run, and hopefully it'll help to alleviate some of that pain when you're running Logi or you using a tank and it gets stuck, right? So use responsibly is all I have to say. Yeah, and also every player is gonna have like a limited number of these too. So it's gonna be, we're gonna start fairly low because we wanna play it safe first, and then we can increase that number as we go.
As
right?
you all know, giving players power sometimes can be very scary.
Yes. So beyond that, a couple of other changes. Flatbed trucks can run over tier 2 trenches, right? So this should further help with some of the early game issues that have been raised about tier 2 trenches being built on roads. Players can now vault while carrying a large item. So again, another thing we've heard a lot about was players wanting to be able to get their critically wounded soldiers from trenches, right? So with this change, players will now be able to vault out with that. So hopefully that will make critically wounded soldiers mechanic a lot more useful.
This might be just like a temporary fix for something that we might change a little bit in the future, though.
Yes, possibly. I mean, I think most of these are sort of like things that we know that we need now, right? Trench and bunker husks no longer consume G supply, so this should really help in alleviating the amount of G supplies you need to keep your bunker bases going, right? And a bunch of bugs are gonna be fixed. Right now, this is like not great. There's a frame rate stutter that's caused by the squad list being too long. So basically, there's too many squads, a lot more squads being made than that list was meant to handle. So it was a bit of like oversight, and that basically causes like massive. I wouldn't say massive is too much of a word, but like you will definitely like notice it. Your screen just kind of like stutters as you move. But if you join a squad, then it fixes itself. But obviously, we don't want to force players to have to join a squad. So this is going to be fixed. A few other things here. I'm just gonna try to power through them. Your bunk. So right now, there's an issue that still allows you to like rotate a bunker to try to get a part of it to be placed in the roads. So that's gonna be fixed. Players still getting stuck when spawning at relic bunkers. So we're putting in one more fix for this, but we also have another like backup plan. We think this will fix the issue, but if it doesn't, we have another like backup plan, like a fail-safe for this that will just spawn the players on the roof until we have time to look at the issue further. So it's kind of like either way, this will be fixed. It's just a matter of which way it's going to be fixed, at least for now. Concrete materials can't be pulled from a concrete mixer used by the other faction. This is another bug that we've seen come up a few times, so that's going to be fixed as well. And there's also a bug that we caught recently with tier 3 trenches decaying too quickly once they start decaying, so that will also be fixed up. So this should round up our round of hotfixes for this update, and obviously if anything really serious comes up, we'll obviously be willing to look into that as well. But for now, hopefully this will make things a little better.
Cool.
When do you expect this hotfix to go out, Mark?
Today or tomorrow.
Great. You answered my question.
That was
You're
like
very, very well.
That was
It's almost like we
so
prepared
prompt,
that.
yeah. But everybody knows we did.
And I also want to say that these are not the only bug fixes. There's actually like several other bugs that are fixed. I just didn't want to list them all here. So
Yeah, additional bug fixes there. That encompasses
that
everything.
encompasses everything we've ever done.
Right? Game safe.
Yeah. So moving on to some new stuff that we're going to be following up on with trench warfare. First thing we're looking to is connecting two different trench networks. So this is something that we want to do with basically from the start, but it was one of those things that was cut from the first version just to because there wasn't enough time. That's something we're going to be looking into. It'll probably be a special flexible piece that can scale, you can scale it to basically like attach two different networks, right? Deployable manned weapons and structures. We're going to be talking about this more in a bit, but basically for players to be able to build an emplacement, which is like kind of like a octagonal shaped trench or like dugout that you can place certain structures into. Like the shippable howitzer, this is going to be a redesign of the existing howitzer. And again, I'll talk about this more in a bit. Infantry support gun and the deployable heavy machine gun are also other manned weapons that we want people using in trenches, and that's something that we talked about previously that we're going to hopefully get around to doing soon. More ways to upgrade, customize your bunkers. So really what we have with the bunkers now is a starting point, but there's a lot more that we want players to be able to like do with them. Because especially now that we're seeing that players are really spending a lot of time in building out these bunker bases, we want to say, okay, what can you fill them with, right? Obviously we have the storm cannon. We have like the garrison structures, but there's also more that that we want to add here, right? So there's going to be basically we want players to be able to build their own version of a fob in these bunker bases, and more garrison structures. Like there was some garrison structures that we wanted to get in the first version. Again, we didn't. One will be the equivalent of a pillbox, so like basically like a machine gun garrison, and also a howitzer garrison. So this sort of like AI version of a howitzer is another thing that is going to be coming, and also this idea of these support structures. So you can see sort of the concepting of this on the right side, and we'll have more to talk about that hopefully on the next stream, right? But our goal really is to allow players that are like investing their time into building these huge defensive lines just to be able to go in there and like further customize these like bunkers, right? And really make them feel like it's theirs, that our ultimate goal was so that we don't give you a fob to build, you build your own fob, right? So
Very, very cool.
Very cool.
stay tuned for more on the next.
It is really, really cool.
But anyway,
I couldn't tell if you were being like sarcastic or
No.
not.
but I was riffing on the nerd.
HB was. I think you said like you felt like tired earlier. I think I'm feeling it now.
Yeah, it's the
Coca-Cola.
the post trench warfare, like like hangover, right? Yeah. It's sort of like, yeah. Anyways, there's more. This isn't over yet, right? In placement. So this is what I was talking about a little earlier, right? This is we actually really wanted this in the first version too, but again, that list was so long we weren't able to get it in. But basically, this is a an octagon shaped trench, right? And it does a few things. One, it provides a deployment point. So this is where you can plug into this a howitzer, or in the future, there's other static defenses that we want players to be able to place here, right?
Uh-huh.
And you're gonna have to use a crane and a flatbed truck to get these structures into the emplacement, right? And it also allows you to place your trenches in a non-90 degree angle, right? So I'll show you that in a moment. But I also want to walk through a couple of points about this howitzer. Basically, it's a redesign of the howitzer that now, instead of making it on the spot, you have to build it at the construction yard, and then you can bring it to basically anywhere. So all the previous locations where you can use the howitzer are still going to work, right? So that's not going to change. You can build it on a normal landscape, but you can also use a crane to deploy it into an emplacement, and it will receive some buffs from that. Other deployable man defenses are coming too. Again, we'll talk about that in the future. And I want to show you a bit. So this is not a final version of it. This is actually just
Artist rendition.
a block-in, what we call it. It's like a prototype, right? But basically, you can plug a trench into any of the sides of the octagon, which gives you more flexibility in placement. And then you have to use a crane again to drop that howitzer in there, right? But that slot, again, is going to hold different types of structures in the future, not just the howitzer, right? And some people might find some other uses for this structure, HB, but...
Oh, you're talking about the pool?
Not the pool.
Oh, shit.
An activity that players like to do in between the wars, but...
I have no idea what you're talking
I
about.
won't mention what this activity is, but...
nothing.
It also starts with the letter P.
Anyways.
They just said that it's not a pool.
Yeah. So, I think there's a very early video of this that we just got
Once again,
from
still,
Anthony. It's prototype.
I think that.
there might be audio.
No?
No, I don't think there's.
Oh, okay, good.
Hopefully not.
It's Anthony just like spilling his guts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that.
Cool. And here is, let me put this back to full screen. How do you, here, is it?
Yeah.
Is it this one? Oh, no, that's exit full screen.
It didn't work.
It did not work.
I hate the slides thing.
Exit full screen.
This slideshow thing
Go, yeah, you can.
is always super messed up. Like, it should just work, and then it doesn't.
Just try again.
There we go.
Go back.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's it. Cool. So this is the, Matt, you can, concept art for the new deployable howitzer. And this is what it looks like when it's packaged and put on a flatbed truck. And then here's the actual concept for when it's deployed, right?
Yep.
And I think that brings us to the end of the development update.
Yeah, it does. That is
All
fantastic.
right, people, get your questions in, and we'll give you the answers. So the one thing I wanted to say is like everybody started spamming Fight Club. And I would say that's not
Flight Club?
Fight Club.
I don't know what that
okay.
is. I have no idea what that
You're
is.
not supposed to talk about it.
I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, man. Why are you talking about it, Matt? You ruined it.
That's okay. I don't care. I'm not part of Fight Club. Tyler Durden and stuff.
Yeah, we know the name. The movie.
It's a book too. Just
Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh, there was a really good question, and I was reading it. Headsacotl asks, "Can we build regular howitzers still after this?"
No.
This is just going to be the howitzer, right?
This is going to be the howitzer. Yeah.
But you still be able to deploy it.
You can
on the
deploy
ground.
it anywhere where you used to be able to deploy it.
So it's not going to be exactly the same, but you'll still be able to have a howitzer whatever you
Instead of
want
building
without-
it with the CV, you have to use a crane.
Yeah.
Developi asks, "When will you get back to work?" Oh, we're working. Don't worry. There's just going to be a 1 week break for the office, right? And I think like a few people are just taking their vacation time. That's the idea.
So like overall, the whole office is gonna be like we're gonna be out for basically the Christmas week.
Yes.
We're gonna be out, but before and after we're still gonna be working. And during the Christmas week, I think it's gonna be inevitable that we're still gonna keep an eye on everything. Obviously, because if something catches fire, we're gonna be.
Oh,
able
of
to,
course. There's going to be like a few of us. Like,
Yeah, we're gonna
we're
be
not
monitoring
going to
things.
be silent. Like,
Yeah,
like
no.
we're going to be running the show still. That's that.
Yeah.
That don't.
It's just that it might
mistake
slow.
what I said.
Like between now and the New Year's and right after New Year's, things might slow down a little bit because some of the developers might be taking some
Yes.
extra time off,
Yeah.
and so and so.
Yeah.
Also, I know for sure, like right on that first week back, HB and I are going to be there,
Yes, we are.
and we're planning something special. I'm not going to talk about it any further than that.
It's a somewhat
It's a
New
tease.
Year's special, something special that we're gonna.
Yeah, well, it'll be before the new year,
Yeah. So
technically. So, Eric Hughes asks, "Will we be able to fill trenches with shovels?" This is a contentious topic that is like almost in constant debate.
like filling them back up.
Yeah, and not just that particular mechanic, but just the idea of like, I've been particularly outspoken about, being able to change trenches and stuff, but it's a very, very complicated topic. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Mark?
Sure. It's
Like just the idea of being able to like
Modify.
essentially move and modify like built trenches.
well, yeah. I mean, it's always like one of those things where a tool used for you that's supposed to be for good can always be used in the opposite direction, right? Like you can like grief your own team, and that's always the thing. Like if you're playing this game on your own as a single player game, of course we can add that in 5 seconds. I mean, it's not 5 seconds, but it's very easy, right? Relatively speaking. But when you consider the entire like ecosystem, it can be potentially used by like partisans. It could be used by like griefers, and there's a lot of different considerations that need to be made for these types of like mechanics, right? So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about that right now.
A couple people have asked, will the howitzer be redeployable?
Yes, absolutely.
Just back it up again.
Yeah.
So I saw Bear has an interesting question, to me anyway. With the new LMG, the storm rifle seems a little bit obsolete. Is there further plans to sort of differentiate those two weapons?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Whenever we introduce new weapons, there's always a chance of some overlap. The storm rifle still has the benefit of being able to switch your firing modes, but we'll have to look at whether or not that's still even a useful thing. But I think we'll definitely especially after the new set of weapons come out, it'll probably be a good time to like go back and like review a bunch of the the older weapons, right?
Well, personally, I'm also of the mind that even in real life, of course, there's a plethora of weapons that can be like they run the gamut on functionality and power and scope and whatever. But there's a lot of overlap, and eventually, as you start introducing more and more and more, there are gonna be things that are a little bit more nuanced, like the differentiation. And I think that it is fine, because even though they might be a little bit more similar, but maybe the caliber that they're shooting is slightly different. Therefore, you can use the same caliber ammunition into different weapons. That it's more cost effectively, or you want to have the trade-off of being able to change the modes. Personally, I think that if we continue to add more and more weapons, it's fine that some of their features overlap a little bit, and also plays a little bit more into the fantasy of you being in an environment that you can find a new weapon and go with it. So sure, we're gonna have to do another pass on it, though, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Eventually.
it's just a matter of like balancing them
Yeah.
to differentiate their sort of use cases as well. So, something Penguin asks, when will you finish painting the office? And I think the reason I've seen this comment a couple times, and I think the reason
What's wrong with the office?
I think people think that because you can see the blue wall and then it's like white in like random spots. So our logo colors are blue and white. So it's actually like
No, they're not.
Well, it
it's
used to be
black
blue
and
and
blue.
white.
It used to be blue and white.
They're orange and white now.
Oh, they're orange now. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, we
It
changed
used
the
to be
colors.
blue.
Yeah,
We have blue chairs and
Yeah.
blue and white. So
that's why we have
the
orange
reason.
sockets.
But the post Foxhole world, it
Yeah, we changed
turned
it.
orange.
So it's like actually intentional. You can't see that wall there, but the whole wall is blue.
Yeah.
And then there's another blue wall like over there, and a wall right here.
Just happens that this angle is
Yeah,
not.
this angle's not
and
great
and
for
the
it.
wall like right behind you guys, technically, where right there, is blue. It's the most convoluted answer to like a very
Yeah.
simple question. I love it.
505.
It's Christmas.
505th slice. As building on slopes still falls, you can still fall through like random holes. Will there be a fix in January? I think that's going to be an ongoing thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there is one more fix that is going to be that addresses another issue with holes in this upcoming patch. I don't know if he'll address that specific issue you're talking about. We actually haven't been hearing too many of those reports anymore, so please send that report to Crazy Flying Chicken if you get a chance, because we actually are looking for more information on that. After we fixed the biggest of those issues last week, and then we got some like very rare sporadic reports of it, but we haven't been able to reproduce that. So we haven't been able to reproduce one other whole issue, which comes from some of the build sites for forts and trenches. They will leave a hole, a very small hole that it is possible to fall through. That one will be fixed in the hotfix, but we suspect there's still at least one other super rare case of it happening. So if you do have more information on it, message Crazy Flying Chicken as soon as possible, because we would really like to know more about that.
Because more information, the easier it is for us to track it down.
It's been getting harder and harder because there's this last lingering issue is so rare that we haven't been able to really get much information on it. So
31 Emmanuel asks, have you considered adding more communication tools for Logi so randoms can coordinate and segment their tasks? Maybe a player-made task system, something like that. We were just talking about this stuff today.
Like a task list that people can check out.
We have shown stuff in the past as well that we were working on.
So we still have the operations update so we did the squad update, and it was supposed to work hand in hand with an operations update that we were planning, but we didn't get to it this year. But that's going to be one of our top priorities next year, and more so like early next year. So definitely for sure, more communication tools are going to be coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
iOracle Gaming asks, where did offshore oil rigs go?
Um,
Question that we
So
get, like,
far
every
in the
week.
oceans, you can't see, you can't reach them.
Yeah, no, they're definitely still planned, so they're not gone. We basically had to really shelve is not the right word because we're still going to work on it.
But we had to
right?
prioritize what
But
we're gonna work first.
This getting those trenches working, I think like it needs to be like appreciated how much work that was. I don't think people.
I appreciate you.
Well, thank you, HB. One person does, but it's not me, right? It's like the team, right? It's not like, trust me, I would never been able to make all this stuff work on my own.
It's
it
not
was the
me,
team.
I can tell you that.
I don't appreciate. No.
Yeah, it's a lot of the people that are not here actually that worked very
Yeah.
hard to make that happen, and unfortunately, we had to like set aside a couple things to make sure it was possible. So that stuff is still in the works. It hasn't gone anywhere. I know like the fuel as well. The fuel station is also still going to be coming. So that stuff's not gone. It's just, again, trenches really, we had to like, stop everything and work very hard for very
Yeah,
long
absolutely.
to make it happen. Right. So
Ericus asks, will you add, I don't know if this is the second question that I've asked from this person, but if so, you got lucky. I normally don't do this. Will you ask or add craters for shells? And I think that's a really cool idea now that we
that's
have
a really
this-
cool idea, actually.
have this like
Yeah.
trench thing in place. Because we could set up some rules to make sure it always looks good and stuff. But I do think it, the answer to that question is it's totally possible. I would consider that like a polish thing. But having it affect the battlefield a little bit could be. You
It
can
slowly
your
start
own,
degrading. Yeah.
make your own pits,
Yeah.
and then
Throw on.
Using howitzers.
using
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
storm cannons and stuff. Also, the rocket could also be like
Leave
one around
an
forever.
actual crater. Yeah. And that would be really cool.
Riff Maxwell asks, will we ever do unconventional weapons like flamethrowers or odd things like curved barrels?
Curved barrels
I
and
don't know
flamethrowers.
about curved barrels.
Curved barrels seems like a little out there, but flamethrowers, I would say, like,
We did talk about this before.
I'm just going to go on a limb. I don't care if I'm wrong. I would say you should probably expect flamethrowers at some point. I personally like making fire stuff. We've had a really good time with it on Foxhole, or on Fortified, sorry.
This question did come up several times, so let's like answer it again. Like we mentioned that flamethrowers are totally not out of the scope of our game. I think we all think it's a really, really cool weapon that if we have the opportunity to do it, we will do it.
We just don't want fire to be damaged.
All I gotta
we
s-
want
yeah.
fire to be actual, like to work nice and to affect light and make sure that thing like illuminates and spreads and feels interesting and there's like mechanics behind it. Just adding a flamethrower that works like a machine gun, it's not as interesting.
I mean, all I have to say is if we can get trenches working, I'm sure we can.
I'm sure we can get fire working.
Fire working,
Honestly, when we first started this project, we were pretty sure that we were never going to be able to get trenches to work.
Oh yeah.
Because
for the longest time.
We look at
Yeah.
the engine, it's like, well, this is literally not supported.
Yeah, it's not supported by the engine, and we were like, this is probably not going to happen. So,
So yeah.
I mean, it happened.
Yeah, I did.
Loxton has asked a couple times, are we aware of the relic bases blocking players? Yes.
Oh yeah, 100%.
We mentioned that in the dev stream.
Yeah,
It's
so
one of the bug fixes, I think. as
yeah,
well.
so there's like a two tiers of fixes for that. One is that we think we found the root cause of it, and we have a fix for that. But just in case, right? There is a failsafe that we're also inputting to that hotfix, where if for some reason that's still happening, which is possible, then we can turn on the failsafe, which will then it will spawn players on the roofs until we can get down to like the actual issue. But that one has been difficult. we found several causes, we fixed them, but it's still happening. So this is why finally, even though we're fixing it again, we're also adding in another fail-safe on top of that. So hopefully, at least we can mitigate, like at least we can get rid of the problem, even if we don't like fix it the proper way, at least in the next couple of weeks, right? So, yeah.
I'm gonna ask a couple more questions because we still got time. Here's one from Subway. Can we expect more Chronicle of Ashes early next year? Maybe not early next year, but definitely next year, for sure. But it's not done. It's just begun. It takes a lot of work to put those together, so they're not going to come like every week like they were for, I think they were for 6 weeks. That's not going to be every week. It's going to be like sort of occasionally. Let's just see. A couple of people have talked about a Jade Cove monument. I think we've talked about this before, and like since I'd rather like give players the ability to build some kind of monument
themselves.
that is like permanent, that lasts over multiple wars. I don't feel good about like adding stuff that is a result of players into the game. Like from our perspective, I think
us
that
adding something that he did, right?
If you guys want to build a monument and sort of like maintain it, like I think that would be the best solution because then that means it's important.
Yeah. And it's still player driven.
Yeah. To me, that would be the best answer. So no, we're not going to add a monument for the 1 year anniversary, but you know, I'm hoping
potentially add the tools for you guys to do that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that that's something that we can do in the future. I know
I like that, a monument system.
Yeah, I know we've talked about it previously on dev streams as well, and I do think it's a really good idea.
We also mentioned that on like home on the home regions.
Yeah,
but,
like
not for. It would be cool to have it in the world.
I think some of the ideas we have floating around for that, and this isn't just for a monument system, but for like other things that players can leave around in the world. Like, just imagine a monument that's built by the players, but there is like an upvote system. And the more like upvoted it gets, the longer it stays in the world. So it can persist through like even months, right?
Yeah.
Which would be or if you have like a Jade Cove type thing and people just keep upvoting it, who knows? It can stay for years.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool.
And I think that's the best way to implement something like that. Because again, like I don't feel good about it. Because like if it should be player driven.
It totally should. Yeah, I know. We agree.
So there was one really good question, and I lost it. Give me 1 second.
Nicholas is like, is there a fix for carrying players out of the trenches? Yes, it's coming.
Hetzicotl asks again, this is a 2-time question. Will the refinery glitch become a feature? Are we
not
do
sure exactly what.
You remember?
Maybe we can follow up.
You remember Cronus Winter talked about a refinery glitch and has made like videos on it and like talked to you about it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Is that going to become a feature or what?
I mean, we didn't even have time to think about that. That if I have to be like 100% frank, so maybe that's something we'll take a look at in the new year. Yeah.
Okay. One last question. So. There was a question earlier, I can't remember who asked it, but I think this is the perfect time to do it, considering this is probably our last stream of the year.
It might not be. We have another one in 2 weeks.
It's the last stream for No, actually, we will be doing it in 2 weeks. Whatever, I'm going to do it anyway because this is the stream I want to do it on. They asked the question, what is your favorite moment of 2019 and what is your least favorite moment of 2019 with regards to Foxhole?
Wow.
Go around the table, Mark, you start.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
I have a problem. First, my memory is terrible. Second, I don't know what happened this year, or what happened last year.
So what's the question?
What's your favorite moment of 2019 with Foxhole and your least favorite moment of 2019?
Oh, I know mine. I'm going to say my favorite moment of 2019 was actually going to PAX and going to Foxconn and actually meeting a lot of you guys there. That was actually extremely fun. It was very different from the previous years. We have had meeting players before, but I think this time was extra special. The game was out for much longer. People knew about us. People came to play, and our booth was made by the community in force, and that was deeply humbling, and it was absolutely amazing. It was a lot of fun. I really loved that. I don't know my least favorite. Let me think. My least favorite is every time I go online and is yelling at me to fix something that is not even in my area, and I'm like, what, man? It's like 8 in the morning. Come on.
I would say my least favorite is probably the general toxicity that happens around our external communities. I think everybody in games really great.
Yeah.
And actually, I think my favorite moment was after update 26, and running around the world and talking to players and just seeing sort of this like new thing with new borders and all that stuff. We worked really hard. I mean, even me and you worked really hard on that update, and I think seeing it come to life was really rewarding, and having players talk to me and go over all the different stories and everything, and talk to me about all the different like history behind all the regions and all that stuff. To me, that's a really big highlight.
I think I might have cheated on my answer because it was not actually Foxhole related.
It was. You went to PAX.
I guess so, but
That
it
was
was
for
not. It was
Foxhole.
not game related. I really liked. I really liked the first wave of the Dead Harvest as well. That was a lot of fun.
So what about you, Mark?
I don't really have a per se favorite and least favorite moment. I think I look at it more in terms of, like what I'm really happy about and what perhaps I'm not as happy about. I think I'm really happy that we actually moved the needle on some of like the really big things. I think more so than last year. I think we took more risks, and even though sometimes those risks, are not necessarily pleasing to everyone, which we understand, but I'm glad we're still taking those risks. I'm glad we're not just like stagnant, and we are trying a lot of new things. I'm glad that we did like the hexagonal world. I'm glad we're still. I'm glad we did the trenches, because one of the big things that we wanted was for players to be able to build more persistent style of like bases that they're actually able to like customize and actually be able to last throughout like a war. That was a big thing. I'm glad we at least started to look at the communication tools again. Like, even though it's only like maybe like a third done, at least there was some like movement there. And I'm glad we did like the hexagon world, because again, making the world feel much more like one world was another one of those like goals we had at the start, right? And I'm really proud that we got rid of the port bases. That was so hard. That was just this like thing that we were going back and forth on so many times, and we were really scared about not having the port bases. And
That was one of our riskiest.
it was one of the riskiest things.
moves,
I'm
yeah.
so happy that we got rid of the port bases. I'll probably write a bit more about this in the upcoming blog, but those are the things I'm like, super happy about, right? And I feel like compared to the previous year where we made a bunch of like content, I feel like the town revamp, that was good and that really moved the needle, but in a lot of other cases we just added more like content, and I feel like just having more content isn't the way forward, right? That's like the lazy way. That's like the easy way forward. Just make some new guns, make some new tanks. Doesn't really like rock the boat. No one's really gonna be mad about making some new tanks, right? But then that's not gonna get us any closer to our goal, right? In order to get closer to the goal, we have to take more risks, and even though it stings, sometimes we take risks. Players don't like them, but hey, it's what we signed up for. It's why we even made the game. The entire game was a risk, so why wouldn't we be taking more risks, right?
Yep.
So to kind of like sum it up, I am really happy about those risks that we took. And if I am unhappy about something, is that maybe we could have taken even more, right? Maybe at the beginning of the year, we were a bit slow, and we just sort of, we just kind of trickled out. more like content instead of working on the really hard problems. So
we did a lot of planning behind the scenes, but there was this like, I feel like there's this pressure to like put out a bunch of stuff as opposed to just working on the stuff that needed to be worked on.
working on
At
the
the beginning of
hard,
the
like
year, yeah.
working on the hard problems was super important, you know, and I really hope that next year, going into next year, what I'm really happy about is that working on the hard problems is what we did basically between spring and like the end of the year, right? And eventually it got harder and harder, which is good. And I'm hoping that next year we don't sort of have like a long break before we start working on the hard problems again. I feel like we should just jump right back into the hard problems, and you know that those hard problems are, you know, more work on Logi, more work on the communication tools, things like that. And yeah,
we don't.
not really the answer to that question.
Yeah,
Matt,
like we don't intend to. I think that if to take anything away from this year, like I said at the beginning of this year, I think we might have prioritized things a little bit not as well as we could.
Absolutely,
in the way we plan our updates, and the way we plan on to update the game. So I think for next year, hopefully we can maintain the space of focusing on what is important.
Exactly.
And we know what you guys are saying. We are not dumb or blind. We see what you guys are saying. We know there are problems that you guys want us to fix. Takes time, and the problems are hard, so there's not going to be anything easy and quick. But these are the things that we want to focus on. These are the things that we want to take the time to look deep and try to go for it. More importantly than just adding a new weapon.
Yeah.
Which is fun, and sometimes we do it just for fun because God knows we also need a break sometimes.
I mean, you gotta do some things that are fun sometimes too,
but,
right? But
Making machine guns, for instance, is really fun.
it's really fun. So yeah.
But anyway, so we're gonna close it down. HB.
Yes.
Fire us up.
I don't know when is the next dev stream happening?
in 2 weeks from now.
I know, but like, do we know the date? Because I don't know the date off the top of my head.
It's the Tuesday, the last Tuesday before the end of the year. I think it's like December 30th.
Oh, so it is.
It's the
it is.
one day that we're gonna be here.
Okay, and so you guys can catch us live if you're watching this on YouTube. Once again, catch us live on twitch.tv/Foxhole Game every second Tuesday at 2 p.m. EST. You should also join the Discord community to join everybody talking about Foxhole, posting memes and screaming at us on discord.gg/Foxhole. Since it's, I hope you guys have a great holiday, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you subscribe to or not.
I subscribe to Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's nowadays.
Good YouTuber.
Or not, or if you don't, just have fun. This is the end of the year. Thank you very much for. I think it was a pretty amazing year for us. So I appreciate.
It's been a hell of a year.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna do this again next stream because it'll literally be the end of the year. But I thought it was a good time to do it. So for everybody out there.